So today I will be showing you assessment for blood pressure. Blood pressure is the force of blood against the walls of the arteries and veins created by the heart as it pumps blood through the body. There's also systolic, which is the maximum pressure in the arteries during the contraction, and you have diastolic, minimum pressure in the arteries during the relaxation. In this assessment, I will be showing you how to measure blood pressure. We have the cuff. So we have the cuff where we will hear the heartbeat, and we also have this cuff where we will wrap around the client. So with the client, what you'll do first, you will wrap the cuff around them and make sure that they're sitting down and they're elevated. You'll have them pull their shirt up, or you'll pull it up for them, And what you want to do is you want to make sure when you wrap this around, it's facing this way. This way. So you'll wrap it around, and you'll put it on the side of their arm, and you'll make sure it's in line with the antecubital fossa. So you make sure the cuff is above, as you can see, above this area right here, where antecubital fossa is at. You will wrap it around, making sure it's tight and secure. Sometimes it is a little hard, so make sure you look at it before you wrap it around. As you can see, it might slide off for some people if their arms are too small or if their arm is too big. Make sure that it's over the artery, and make sure that they have their hand laying flat with no movement. As you're doing that, you're going to tell them to hold this piece right here, or you can clip it to their shirt. I usually clip it to the shirt so I can have a better view, but sometimes you might have to have them hold it so you can have it facing a certain way so you can see it. So then we have the blood pressure squeeze ball. That's what I call it. And then you also have a stethoscope. So you want to make sure that the stethoscope is facing towards you, and I always look at it this way and have the ears facing this way. So then you'll put it on inside your ears. Make sure that you turn it on. So you'll hear a click. You can turn it. When you click it this way, that means it's off. But when you turn it back this way, it's on. You can do a little tap, and you will hear a loud sound. So with blood pressure measurement, you're going to take 2 measurements and average out the 2. So when you're measuring blood pressure, you make sure that you do not have your thumb on the stethoscope because your thumb has its own pulse. So you're going to have 2 fingers open, and you're going to put it through the stethoscope bell and hold it against the arm, and make sure that you have, sometimes the blood pressure cuff does slide down, so you might have to scoot it up some for them because it will slide down depending on the person's size of the arm. You make sure that the stethoscope bell is not underneath the cup. You make sure that it's right here on the antecubital fossa. Then you might have to pull it up again, but you make sure it's right here on the antecubital fossa. So what you're going to do is you're going to move this up and tighten it. As you squeeze, you're going to go, you can't see, but on here it's up to 300, but you're only going to go up to 200 at the most where you're squeezing. You're going to do some hard squeezes. The first sound will be the systolic sound. So you release it a little bit and you wait for that first sound. The second sound will be diastolic. So that's the last sound, which is the last phase. Then you release it again, and you let the client rest for 5 seconds. His blood pressure was 125/82. So we're going to rest for 5 seconds, and we're going to take it again. And you do the same thing. Always remember to not put your thumb on top of the bed because it has its own pulse. I am right-handed, which I am using my right hand for this and my left hand. But some people that are right-handed, they might use it this way and have their left hand. They might have their left hand twisted or hold it this way with their left hand and squeeze with their right. But for me, it's easier using the stethoscope in my right hand and squeezing the ball with my left and putting my hands in between like this. And we're going to take a second measurement. Make sure you always remember to do not put it underneath the blood pressure cuff. If you need to, you can always take it off again and pull it back up before you take the blood pressure, because sometimes it will slide down. Make sure it's on secure. And what you're going to do is the same thing I said before. Always remember to always keep your hands this way and make sure that the two ears are facing you in the stethoscope as you see. We're going to take another measurement. Make sure you push it back and tighten it up so it can squeeze. And always remember on here, if you guys can see, it goes up to 300. So this is 180, 200, 220, 240, 260, 280 to 300 right here. It starts at 20 and goes all the way to 300. I'm going to have to move it closer so you guys can see. And so we're going to take another blood pressure. And always remember, you can always clip it on, or sometimes you might have to have it hold it, but make sure it's at a spot where you can actually see and visualize it. So like I said before, we're going to make sure we put the stethoscope right here on the antecubital fossa. And make sure that the air pressure is locked in. So when we squeeze, it will pressure onto the cuff. It will squeeze on the cuff, We're going to do it again. Make sure you go up to, I prefer to go up to 200 just to be safe, but in my undergrad, they told me to go to 180, so some people do stop at 180. So when you first start, you're going to release it a little bit and wait for that first sound. And then the last sound, which is the fourth phase, you're going to take that last sound as your diastolic. And for this one, I got 125/80 for this one. So with blood pressure, this has helped measure the person's resting blood pressure, and it lets the person know if they are having high blood pressure, hypertension, or if they can work out in between sessions, or do they have hypertension, and what type of workouts we need to form for that client. So that's why we take blood pressure. Always remember, systolic blood pressure is the maximum pressure in the arteries during a contraction, and diastolic is the minimum pressure in the arteries doing the relaxation part. That is the last phase, and that's the phase we always get. So always remember, go up to 200, between 180 and 200 as you're pumping. Make sure you listen to that first sound, which is the systolic, and the second sound, which is part of the last phase, mainly the fourth phase, that's diastolic. So those two sounds you get, and you always take two measurements and always average them out.